The old alien in Trouble the Marketplace was alive with sound. Filled with the noise of voices, the smell of cooked food, and the bright colors of alien stalls, traders shouted the prices of fruits, spices, and glowing fabrics. Shoppers moved fast, haggling and laughing, but in the middle of this busy place sat one old alien. Silent and still, he was thin, his bones sharp under his pale skin. His clothes were torn, his back bent, his eyes, once strong, now looked tired and empty. He sat at a small wooden table outside a food stall, staring at the empty bowl in front. Of him, the steam of the food had long vanished, and crumbs were all that remained. The stall owner, a thick alien with 3 short horns on his head, crossed his arms and shouted, "You old waste, pay your bill or get out." The old alien flinched. His trembling hands searched the folds of his ragged robe, but he found nothing. His voice cracked. "Please, give me a little more time." The crowd nearby stopped to watch. Some whispered, some smirked. They had seen him before. Always struggling, always weak. To them, he was invisible, a shadow in their grand city. Nobody cared. 2 guards in silver armor walked over. Their boots struck the stone ground hard, making the old alien shrink even more. One guard leaned down, his reptile eyes cold. "No credits, no food," he hissed. "You know the rules." The other grabbed the old alien's arm roughly up. "Old one, you don't belong here." The old alien tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The stall owner shouted again, louder this time, "He ate and cannot pay. Take him away." The guards dragged him from his chair. His frail body shook, his legs almost gave way. The crowd laughed softly, some shaking their heads. Oh, no one offered help. No one wanted to share blame. The old alien whispered, almost to himself, "I was once someone. Not like this," but the guards did not care. At the edge of the marketplace, a human traveler paused. He had been passing through, buying supplies for his journey. His dark coat was dusty, his boots worn, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. He saw the scene, saw the old alien's thin form dragged like trash. The human steps slowed. His heart tightened. He had seen cruelty before, on many planets. But something about this felt heavier. The guards pulled harder. The old alien coughed in pain. His knees hit the ground. His robe tore even more. The human's voice cut through the noise. "Stop." The marketplace grew quieter. Many turned to stare at the human. Humans were rare here. Their reputation was mixed. Some saw them as dangerous, some as foolish. The guards froze. Surprised, one sneered, "This is not your business." "Human." The human stepped closer. His boots echoed against the stone. His eyes never left the old alien. He saw the scars on his arms, faint lines of old battles, marks of a life once lived with pride. The human spoke slowly. "What crime has he done?" The stall owner pushed forward. "He ate and has no credits. That is the crime." The human's gaze shifted to the old alien. The man's eyes were full of shame, full of despair. It was clear this was not the first time the human's hand moved to his pocket. He pulled out a few shining credits and dropped them onto the stall counter. The coins clinked loudly, echoing through the quiet air. "I'll pay," he said, his voice steady. A ripple moved through the crowd. Shock, whispers, disbelief. Why would a human care? They asked each other. The guards frowned, one of them hissing, "You interfere where you should not, human." But the stall owner quickly scooped the credits into his hand. Greed flashing in his eyes, he nodded. "The bill is paid." The guards released the old alien, shoving him roughly to the ground. He gasped for breath, clutching his chest. The human reached down, offering his hand. The old alien hesitated, then slowly took it. The human helped him to his feet. The crowd kept watching, curious and unsettled. Something about this moment felt different, felt heavier than a simple payment. The human looked around at them all, his voice calm but sharp. "Kindness is not weakness," he said. "It is a choice." No one replied. The crowd looked away, afraid to be involved. But the old alien's eyes filled with tears. For years, no one had spoken for him. For years, no one had cared if he lived or died. And now, a stranger from another world had done more than his own kind ever had. The guards stepped back, muttering, their pride hurt, their authority challenged. But they did not move further. They knew the human's presence alone would draw attention from higher powers. The human placed a steady hand on the old alien's shoulder. "Come," he said simply. "You don't need to face them alone." The old alien nodded weakly, his steps unsteady, but his heart strangely warm. For the first time in years, he was not invisible. For the first time in years, he was not alone. And yet, as the human guided him away from the marketplace, unseen, eyes were already watching, whispers carried through the air, reports would be sent. This act of kindness had stirred something bigger than anyone in that crowd could imagine. The human steps forward. The marketplace slowly returned to its noise, but not completely. A strange tension remained in the air. People kept stealing glances at the human who had dared to stop the guards. Whispers followed him like shadows. The old alien leaned on the human's arm as they walked. His breath was weak, his steps heavy, but in his eyes there was a faint light, a flicker of hope he thought was long gone. "Why? Why did you help me?" he asked softly, his voice cracked like dry wood. The human did not answer at once. His eyes scanned the crowd, noticing the stares, the sharp whispers, and the way the guards still lingered nearby like hunting dogs. At last, he said, "Because someone should have." The old alien lowered his head, ashamed. "You should not have wasted your credits on me. Human, I am nothing, less than nothing." The human stopped walking. He crouched slightly so his eyes were level with the alien's. His voice steady, "You are not nothing. I saw the scars on your arms. Those are not marks of weakness. Those are marks of someone who fought, someone who endured." The old alien trembled. His lips moved as if to speak, but no sound came. For a moment, he looked like he might collapse. The human gently guided him to a shaded bench near a stone pillar. The crowd still watched from a distance, curious but afraid. No one dared to step closer. One of the guards muttered loudly, his voice sharp with anger, "Pathetic. A human saving garbage." The human's head turned. His eyes locked on the guard with an intensity that silenced even the whispers around them. He said nothing, but his gaze alone carried weight. The guard quickly looked away, pretending to check his weapon. The old alien's chest rose and fell unevenly. He whispered, "You don't understand. Helping me will bring you trouble. They will not forgive this. They will never forgive this." The human's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then let it be their trouble, not yours." The old alien looked at him in silence. For the first time, he saw not just a stranger, but something Mara-shield standing between him and the cruelty of the world. After a while, the human bought a small flask of water from a nearby stall. He placed it in the old alien's shaking hands. The alien drank slowly, as if every drop was precious. "You said you were once someone," the human spoke quietly. "Who were you?" The old alien's eyes clouded with memories. His voice was soft but heavy. "Long ago. I was a warrior of the 5th Legion. We fought in the border wars. We defended this city when raiders came. My name was once spoken with respect." The human listened carefully. His eyes narrowed slightly as he heard the bitterness in the alien's tone. "But when my body grew old and slow," the alien continued, "they cast me aside. To them, I became a burden. I lost my family. I lost my home. Now I am just a shadow, waiting for the end." His voice cracked, and he coughed hard. The human handed him the flask again. Steadying his trembling hands, "You were not forgotten," the human said firmly. "Maybe by them, yes, but not by the universe, not by me." The old alien looked into his eyes, confused. "Why do you say such things?" "We are not of the same blood, not of the same world." The human straightened, his jaw firm, because respect does not belong to one world only. It belongs to anyone who has earned it. The old alien blinked, stunned by such words. But the moment of peace was short. A small group of citizens gathered nearby. Whispering louder now, some pointed at the human. Others sneered. Why waste money on him? One alien spat. "He is worthless. Humans think they can play heroes everywhere." Another muttered, "This will not end well." The human ignored them, but his ears caught every word. He saw how their eyes held both fear and contempt. The old alien tugged weakly at his sleeve. "Please, walk away. Leave me here, before their anger turns on you." But the human shook his head. "I will not leave you, not today." The words carried strength, like a stone unshaken by waves. Suddenly, the sound of armored boots echoed again. More guards arrived, drawn by the earlier commotion. Their leader, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His golden armor reflected the sun. His sharp eyes locked onto the human. "You," he said coldly, "you interfere with law. You pay for him today, but tomorrow, will you feed every beggar? Will you buy every debt?" The human stood slowly, his presence calm, but his voice steady and firm. "I did not interfere with law. I interfered with cruelty. There is a difference." The crowd gasped at his boldness. Some even leaned closer to hear more. The guard leader snarled, "You dare speak against us?" The human's reply was sharp. "I dare to speak for what is right." For a moment, silence wrapped the entire square. Even the market traders froze in their work. The old alien's eyes widened. He could not believe this human was risking so much for him. A stranger from another star, yet standing taller than any one of his own kind had in years. The guard leader raised his hand as if to strike, but then lowered it. The human's eyes were unflinching, unafraid. It was as if he had faced far worse and survived. The leader spat on the ground. "This is not finished, human, not by far." With a wave of his hand, the guards turned and marched away, their footsteps heavy with unspoken threats. The human helped the old alien to stand again. The crowd still whispered, unsure what to think. But in that moment, something had changed. A seed was planted, one act of kindness that could not be erased, and deep within the old alien's heart, a fire long thought dead began to burn again. For the first time in years, he dared to believe that perhaps he was not finished yet. The old alien walked slowly beside the human. Leaning heavily on his arm, the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the stone streets in shades of orange and gold. Around them, the marketplace noise returned. But people still looked at them from the corners of their eyes, some with curiosity, others with disgust. They moved away from the busy stalls and into a quieter part of the city. The human guided him to a narrow alley where shadows offered peace. There, the old alien sat on a step, breathing heavily. His frail body shook with exhaustion. The human crouched beside him. His eyes scanned the alien's scars again. They were not random scratches each. One was a story. Deep lines across his arms, chest, and even his face. Wounds of battles fought long ago. Finally, the human asked, "Tell me, who are you really?" The old alien looked down, ashamed. His voice cracked. "You should not waste time on me, human. You should go before they return." The human's gaze hardened. "I do not walk away from the truth." "Speak." The alien closed his eyes, breathing deeply. Memories flooded back. His voice was low but steady. I was once called General Cairn, commander of the 5th Legion. We fought in the border wars. I led thousands into battle, and I returned with fewer. Always fewer. The human's brows lifted. He did not interrupt. Cairn's voice trembled. When the raiders came to burn this city, I stood on the wall with my soldiers. I bled with them. I killed with them. I saved this place more times than I can count. And yet, look at me now. He lifted his trembling hands, his claws dull and cracked, his once proud posture broken. When I grew old, when my body grew weak, they stripped me of my rank. My family turned their faces away. They said I was too slow, too useless, so they threw me out like garbage. The human's jaw tightened. So the hero became invisible. Cairn laughed bitterly. A hollow sound, a hero. Heroes are remembered. I was erased. My name struck from records. My medals melted down. I am nothing now. The human leaned closer, his voice steady. Then why do you still live here, in the city that betrayed you? Cairn's eyes glistened, because I hoped. One day, they might remember. One day, someone might look at me and say, "You are still one of us." But years passed, and no one came. His voice broke. His shoulders shook as if the weight of decades pressed down. The human placed a hand on his shoulder, firm and steady. "You are not forgotten, not while I stand here." Cairn looked at him in disbelief, his voice sharp. Why? Why do you, a human, care? The human's eyes darkened. Because I know what it means to fight and be discarded. On my world, soldiers too are forgotten, left to beg in the streets while those they protected live in comfort. I have seen it. I have lived it. Cairn's eyes widened in that moment. He saw not just a stranger, but a mirror. Different flesh, different world, but the same wounds. The alley grew quiet. Only the distant noise of the city reached them for the first time. In years, Cairn felt understood, but shadows stirred at the far end of the street. A group of cloaked figures watched them, whispering. Their eyes glowed faintly under their hoods. The human noticed. His hand brushed the hilt of his knife hidden under his coat. His voice low. "We are being followed." Cairn's weak body tensed. "They are not guards. They are informers. They will spread word that a human defied authority." The human frowned. "Let them spread it. Truth cannot be silenced forever." But Cairn shook his head. "You don't understand. In this city, truth is what the rulers say it is. Nothing else matters." The human's jaw tightened. He stood tall, his presence a wall between Cairn and the shadows. The figures eventually melted away, disappearing into the crowd, but the warning was clear, as were everywhere. Cairn lowered his voice. "You have placed yourself in danger, human. Soon they will come not only for me, but for you." The human's lips curved in a faint smile. "Then, let them come. I do not fear them." Cairn studied him closely. His old eyes saw strength, but also scars hidden beneath calm words. He realized this human was not an ordinary traveler. "You remind me of my soldiers," Cairn whispered, strong, stubborn. Unwilling to bend, the human met his gaze. "And you remind me of something. My people often forget that even broken warriors are still warriors." The silence between them was heavy but powerful, for the first time in decades. Cairn felt the fire of his past stir again, but danger was growing fast. The guards who had left earlier would not stay silent. The stall owner would boast about his credits, and rumors would spread like fire. Soon, the human's act of kindness would reach the ears of those who ruled the city. Cairn coughed and leaned against the wall, his voice almost a whisper. "You must leave before they mark you as my ally." But the human shook his head. "I will not walk away if they come. I will face them with you." Cairn's eyes burned with sudden tears. He whispered, "No one has stood with me for so long. Not even my own blood. The human's reply was simple, but it struck like thunder. "Then I will be the one who does." In that alley, under the fading light of day, two figures sat together, one broken by betrayal, the other hardened by battles of his own, different worlds. But bound by the same truth, forgotten warriors still carried fire. And though neither said it aloud, both knew this was only the beginning. The city would not ignore what had just happened. Trouble was coming, faster than either of them could imagine. The growing tension, the story of what happened in the marketplace, spread like fire. By the next day, whispers filled the streets. Everyone was talking about the human who dared to protect the old alien. Some called him foolish, saying, "Humans always throw themselves into trouble. They never know when to stay quiet." Others whispered with curiosity, "Why would a human pay for him? What did he see in that week? Forgotten one?" The old alien, now walking slowly with the human through the outer streets, felt the weight of every stare. Children pointed at him, adults shook their heads, and yet, behind their mocking words, there was something new, a seed of doubt. The human noticed it. He noticed how quickly rumors traveled. He noticed how the guards' eyes lingered longer on him whenever they passed. He knew this was not the end, but only the beginning. That night, they sat by a small fire outside the city walls. The human had chosen not to stay inside the alien inns. Knowing the trouble it might bring, the old alien sat beside him, wrapped in a thin robe, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "You should not have done it," the alien whispered. "The guards will not forgive. They are not men of honor. They are men of power. And power does not like to be questioned." The human poked the fire with a stick, sparks flying into the cold night. His face calm. "Then let them question me. I have faced worse than guards." The old alien turned his eyes toward the sky. The stars above reminded him of the battles long ago. He remembered the cries of warriors, the clash of blades, and the silence after victory. He whispered, "I once believed I could fight anything. Now I cannot even stand against two guards. My life is nothing." The human's voice was firm. "You are wrong. They see you as nothing. But I do not, and soon neither will they." The old alien shook his head, but deep inside, something stirred. The next morning, the human and the old alien walked back toward the city. The streets were quieter than usual, but the silence was sharp. Groups of aliens stood together, talking in hushed voices. Their eyes flicked toward the human, toward the old alien, and then quickly away. "They are watching us," the human said quietly. His hand rested near the small blade hidden in his coat. The old alien lowered his voice. "They watch because they fear what kindness can do. They fear it more than violence." As they reached the center of the city, the tension grew stronger. A crowd had gathered around the plaza. At the center stood several guards, their armor shining under the sun, and behind them, higher officials in robes of power. One of the robed figures lifted his hand. His voice carried across the plaza. "A human has broken the peace. A human dares to question the law of our city. Today, he will answer before us all." The crowd murmured. Some were eager to see the human punished. Others simply watched, caught between fear and curiosity. The human stepped forward, his calm steps echoing against the stone. The old alien tried to hold him back, but his strength was too weak. "Please," he whispered, "do not stand against them. They will crush you." But the human's voice rang clear. "I did not break peace. I gave it. I did not break law. I gave mercy. If that is a crime, then let the whole city see it." The crowd gasped. His words cut sharp through the air. The guards shifted uneasily. The officials exchanged glances. One of them sneered. "You speak boldly for an outsider, but you do not understand our ways. That old one is nothing but a burden." We do not waste food on the useless." The old alien's face burned with shame. He lowered his head, his hands trembling. He wished the ground would swallow him whole, but the human placed a hand on his shoulder. Steady and strong, his voice was like steel, a burden. "I see a warrior. I see someone who has given more than you ever have. The scars on his arms are proof of battles fought for this very city, and yet you treat him as dust." The crowd shifted, unease spreading. Some lowered their eyes, remembering the stories of the border wars, remembering the warriors who had once defended them. The official slammed his staff against the stone. "Enough. You will not turn the people against their rulers." But it was too late. The words had already reached hearts that had long forgotten. The whispers grew louder. "Is it true? Was he really a warrior? Did he fight for us?" The guards stood tense, their hands on their weapons. The officials, faces twisted with anger. The human knew he had lit a flame that could not be put out. He leaned closer to the old alien and whispered, "They will try to silence us now, but remember, truth spreads faster than lies." The old alien's eyes filled with tears. For so long he had believed he was nothing. For so long he had lived in the shadows, but now in front of the whole city the human had spoken words that gave him back his honor. The tension in the air grew so heavy it was almost alive. The guards took one step forward, ready to strike. The crowd leaned in, holding their breath, and at that moment, the human smiled faintly, as if daring them to try. The human stand the plaza was silent, except for the rustle of banners in the wind. The crowd had grown larger, spilling into the streets. Every eye fixed on the human and the frail old alien standing at his side. The officials on the stone platform looked down with cold eyes. Their robes shimmered in the sunlight, symbols of wealth and power stitched into every fold. One of them raised his hand, his voice sharp. "You dare speak against the law of this city, human? You dare stand for one who is worthless?" The human did not flinch. His eyes swept across the crowd. Meeting the gazes of the ordinary people who watched in silence, he spoke slowly, clearly, so all could hear. "I stand against cruelty, not law. I stand for the truth, not for lies. If that is dangerous, then so be it." A murmur rippled through the plaza. The officials shifted uncomfortably. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons, waiting for orders. The old alien tugged weakly at the human's sleeve, his voice barely a whisper, "Please, stop. They will punish you. They will punish us both." The human gently placed his hand over the old alien's trembling fingers. His voice was steady. "Let them. Some things are worth standing for." The crowd stirred. Their hearts felt the weight of those words. Some lowered their eyes in shame, remembering how they had looked away when the old alien was dragged across the marketplace. The head official slammed his staff against the ground. "Silence him," he ordered. The guards moved forward, but the human stepped ahead of the old alien, planting himself firmly between the armored soldiers and the frail figure behind him. His eyes burned like steel. "You will touch him only after you step over me." The guards hesitated. They had faced many warriors, but there was something in the human's voice that carried more power than weapons. The crowd gasped, whispering, "Louder now, he stands for the old one. He would fight for him, even against the guards." The head official sneered, "Why risk your life for him? He is nothing but dust. What value does he hold to you, human?" The human's answer came like thunder. "Because he is alive, because he once gave everything for this city, while you sat on your thrones. Because you measure value in credits and power. But I measure it in courage and sacrifice." The old alien's eyes widened. His heart shook as he heard those words. For years he had been called worthless, a burden. Now, in front of his own people, someone spoke of him with honor. The officials exchanged nervous looks. The crowd's whispers grew louder. Some even shouted, "Is it true? Was he really a warrior?" Did he save this city once? The head official's face twisted with anger. Do not listen to this outsider. He knows nothing of our ways. But the human's voice rose above the noise. I know enough. I know when a people betray their own. I know when those in power hide the truth. Look at his scars. Look at his broken body. Do you think he gained those marks from laziness? He bled for you, he fought for you, and you repay him with chains of shame. The crowd fell into stunned silence. The guards froze again, their hands trembling slightly on their weapons. One voice in the crowd shouted, I remember. I was a boy when the border wars came. I remember the warriors who stood at the gates. He was there. Another voice followed. Yes. My father told me of the Legion. They saved us all, and now we let him starve. The officials panicked. There. Control was slipping. The human had struck their weakest point memory. The truth they had buried was rising again. The head official shouted, desperate now, seize them both. End this nonsense. The guards stepped forward once more. Their armor clinked as they surrounded the human and the old alien. The tension grew so heavy the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The human stood tall. He did not draw a blade. He did not raise his fists. But his presence was unshakable. His voice cut through the air. Strike, if you must. But know this, every blow you land on me will remind these people of your fear. Every drop of blood will scream the truth louder than I ever could. The guards hesitated. Their leader clenched his jaw. His orders were clear. But his soldiers' hearts were shaken. None wanted to be the first to cut down an unarmed human standing for justice. The old alien, trembling, clutched the human's coat. His voice broke. Why do you do this? Why risk everything for me? The human looked at him, his expression calm. Because someone has to. Because silence feeds cruelty. And I will not be silent. The words echoed across the plaza like a bell. The crowd was no longer whispering. They were shouting, some cheered. Some demanded answers from the officials. The tide was turning. The head official's face darkened. His voice shook with fury. You will regret this day, human, you and your weak pet both. The human smiled faintly, his eyes never leaving the officials. No, it is you who will regret it, for the people are beginning to remember, and once they remember the truth, no power will protect you. The officials, sensing their grip slipping, ordered the guards to retreat for now. The soldiers obeyed. Though their pride was heavy with frustration, the plaza erupted in voices. Some shouted support for the human, others argued in fear. But one thing was clear, something had changed forever. The old alien's knees gave way, and he sank to the ground, tears filling his tired eyes. For the first time in many years, he felt the warmth of dignity returning. The human bent down, helping him rise once again. Stand tall, the human whispered. The world has not forgotten you. They only needed to be reminded, and as they walked from the plaza, the sound of voices followed them, voices no longer filled with laughter at his misery, but with questions, doubts, and sparks of something dangerous for the rulers. Hope. The hidden Death City was restless after the plaza incident. Word of the human's bold stand spread through the streets like storm winds. In taverns, workshops, and markets, voices whispered the same question: why would a human defend a forgotten old alien with such fire? At first, many laughed it off, calling it madness. But others began to wonder, and soon curiosity turned into doubt. Doubt turned into memory. The old alien and the human stayed in a small abandoned shelter on the edge of the city. The place was quiet, its walls cracked, its roof leaking when it rained. But it was safer than the inns where spies of the rulers might wait. That night, as the fire burned low, the human asked again, "You were a warrior, weren't you? You fought for this city once. Tell me the truth." The old alien's eyes glistened in the dim light. His voice shook. Yes, human. I was a commander of the 5th Legion when raiders attacked from the northern wastes. We fought day and night. Many of us died to protect these walls. And his voice broke as he lifted his sleeve, showing faded scars across his arm. I carried their banners. I carried their lives. I bled so this city could live. The human listened, his jaw tight. His heart burned with anger at the injustice. The old alien lowered his head. But when the war ended, the rulers feared us. They feared warriors who had seen too much, so they dismissed us, left us to starve. Some were banished, some vanished. I was left with nothing. His words hung heavy in the air. The human's hands clenched into fists. So the rulers owed you a debt. They owe every breath of their lives to you. And instead of honoring you, they erased you. The old alien gave a hollow laugh, a debt they will never admit. To them, I am better forgotten. But the next morning, the truth began to escape their chains in the marketplace. An old shopkeeper whispered to a customer, "I remember him. He saved my brother when the walls nearly fell." In another street, a mason told his son, "That scar across his cheek. I've seen it before. He fought at the gate." The memories of the people returned like sparks catching dry wood. Soon, the whispers reached the ears of the guards. And then the officials, the rulers, gathered. In a grand hall, their voices sharp, their faces dark with worry. One slammed his fist against the table. "The human has woken memories we buried long ago. The people talk too much," another hissed. "If they remember the Legion, if they remember what was done to them, our power will be questioned. We cannot let that happen, so silence the human," one said coldly. "And silence the old one before his story grows." But it was already too late that very evening, when the human and the old alien returned. To the plaza, they found a crowd waiting, not hostile this time, but curious, expectant. The people wanted answers. A young alien from the crowd stepped forward, his voice trembling but strong. "Is it true? Were you part of the 5th Legion? Did you fight for us?" The old alien froze. His body shook. He had hidden for so long that the thought of speaking in front of so many terrified him. His lips trembled. No words came out. The human stepped beside him. His voice rang out, "Yes, it is true. He fought. When raiders came, he fought. When the walls nearly fell, he fought while the rulers hid. He gave his strength, his blood. So you could stand here alive today." The crowd gasped. Whispers spread fast. Some nodded, others clenched their fists. In anger, the old alien's eyes filled with tears. He finally found his voice, broken but steady. "I only did what was my duty, but yes, I was there. And I saw many of my brothers fall so that you could live." The silence that followed was powerful. From the crowd, an old woman cried, "My husband was one of them. He never came home, and you?" Her voice cracked as she looked at the old alien. "You fought beside him." The alien nodded. His hands trembled. "I did. He was brave, braver than most." The woman sobbed openly. The crowd stirred again. Many eyes filled with tears. Many voices grew louder. Why did no one tell us? Why did they let him suffer? The human raised his voice because the rulers feared the truth. They feared men like him, men who carried honor, men who reminded them of their cowardice. The officials arrived with guards, their faces pale with fury. The head official shouted, "Enough! These are lies. The old one is delusional. The human is poisoning your minds." But the people no longer looked at the rulers. Their eyes were fixed on the old alien, on the scars across his arms. On the truth that could no longer be denied, the human stepped forward, his voice cutting like a blade. "You owe him a debt. You owe him and every fallen warrior who gave their lives for this city. And instead of paying it with honor, you paid it with betrayal." The crowd roared, anger rising like thunder. The officials trembled. The guards stood frozen, uncertain whether to obey or to lower their weapons. The old alien fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face for the first time in decades. He was not invisible. He was seen. He was remembered. The human bent beside him, whispering, "They cannot bury the truth any longer. The debt is no longer hidden." And as the people's voices rose higher, demanding answers, demanding justice, the rulers realized their hold was slipping. The human had done the impossible. He had given the forgotten warrior his honor back. But with honor came danger, and in the shadows, plans for vengeance were already forming. A new beginning. The plaza no longer belonged to the rulers. It belonged to the people. The voices of hundreds rose together, echoing off the stone walls of the city. Some shouted with anger, some with sorrow. But all of them carried one truth: the old alien was not worthless. He was a hero forgotten by those in power. The human stood tall beside him, his eyes steady as he watched the crowd. He saw the fear on the faces of the officials, the hesitation of the guards. He knew the balance had shifted. The head official slammed his staff on the ground, his voice shaking. "Silence. Go back to your homes. This is nothing but a trick played by an outsider." But the people did not move. A young worker shouted back, "If it is a trick, then explain the scars. Explain why our fathers spoke of the fifth legion, but you never honored them." Another voice followed, louder, "Explain why this warrior starved while you feasted in your halls." The guards shifted uneasily. The order to strike the crowd hung in the air, but their hands did not move to draw blades. They looked at the human, at the old alien, then at the people who no longer feared them. The human stepped forward, his voice calm but strong. "The truth is no trick. The truth does not die because rulers wish it. The truth lives in scars, in memories, in every breath of those who still walk this city." The old alien trembled. His knees were weak, but the human's hand kept him steady. He raised his head, his voice breaking, I gave my life to protect this city, not to rule it, not to demand riches, only to protect. And if you believe I am worthless, then you shame not only me, but every warrior who fell beside me." The silence that followed was heavy. It broke when an elder in the crowd dropped to his knees before the old alien, bowing his head. "Forgive us. We forgot you. We forgot all of you." Others followed, one by one, until the plaza was filled with bowed heads. The rulers' faces turned pale. The power they held slipped away with every kneeling figure. The human's voice rang like iron. "You cannot erase what he has done. You cannot erase what your people now remember. Honor must be given where it is due. That is the law of every world, every star." The head official's hands shook. He wanted to order the guards to strike, but he saw it in their eyes. They would not obey. Not today. Not against the will of the people. The guards lowered their weapons, stepping back. The crowd erupted in cheers. A tide of voices rose together, drowning out the ruler's commands. The old alien's eyes filled with tears. His shoulders shook as decades of pain poured out. For the first time in so long, he was not invisible. He was not worthless. He was not forgotten. The human bent low, whispering, "Stand tall, old warrior. This city belongs to you as much as it does to them." The alien shook his head weakly. "No. Not to me. I am too old, too broken. But perhaps, to the young, to those who will not forget again." The human smiled faintly. "Then let them remember you as the one who carried the flame even when it nearly died." By evening, the rulers had retreated into their halls, their voices silenced. The people gathered in the plaza, lighting torches in honor of the forgotten legion. Songs of the old wars were sung once more, names of the fallen spoken aloud. The old alien sat on the steps, his frail body wrapped in a warm cloak someone had given him. His heart was fragile, but it burned with pride. His eyes turned to the human. "You did this. You gave me back my name." The human shook his head. "No, you always had your name. I only reminded them to see it." The alien's lips trembled with a weak smile. "Then let me die with that honor returned. That is enough for me." But the human's hand tightened on his shoulder. "No, old one, this is not the end. This is a beginning. You are not finished yet." The alien's eyes filled again. A beginning, for one so old. The human looked out at the torches, at the people standing together for the first time in years. For them, yes, and for you, too. As long as you still draw breath, your story is not finished. The crowd cheered, voices calling the old alien by a name he thought was lost forever, his true name from the Legion days. The sound carried across the city, echoing into the night. The human helped him rise to his feet. The old alien stood straighter than he had in decades, his chest lifted, his eyes bright with pride. For the first time in years, he felt tall again. The human whispered so only he could hear, "One act of kindness can shake an empire. Never forget that." The old alien's lips curved into a faint smile, and one human can change the fate of a world as the night sky filled with stars. The human and the old alien walked slowly through the crowd. No longer alone, no longer shamed. Their steps were followed by voices, by respect, by the beginning of something greater. It was not just a new beginning for the old alien. It was a new beginning for the city itself, and perhaps for the galaxy.